Also this, moments ago, breaking at the Supreme Court, the justices there have issued a decision on Tennessee's ban on sex reassignment medical care for minors. The Supreme Court upholding the Tennessee law that bans certain types of gender-affirming care. Let's bring in Shannon Bream on this. Shannon, it's the first time really that the High Court is considering this type of care or restrictions on this type of care for children in America.
Yeah, and this has been one of the most watched cases of the entire term because there are many other states that also have some kind of limit or ban on trans treatment for minor children. So this has gotten a ton of attention, and essentially the court's ruling 6-3. There are concurrences and breaks here and there, but the majority opinion says this. It says this case carries with it the weight of fierce scientific and policy debates about the safety, efficacy, and propriety of medical treatments in the evolving field. They say there are a lot of different studies out there. They came up during arguments, some of them saying other countries have limited or backed off these treatments for minors, but they say that's not our place, our decision to make, but essentially says our role is not to judge the wisdom, fairness, or logic of the law, but just to ensure that it does not violate the equal protection guarantee of the 14th Amendment. They said this law survives that scrutiny, so essentially concluding that it does, we leave questions of policy to the people, their elected representatives, and the democratic process, essentially saying Tennessee has passed this law. We're not going to step in. We think that it passes the constitutional muster of the 14th Amendment. So Tennessee can continue under this law to ban specific treatments that are trans-related for minors. And the other states out there, 20 plus of them, who have these laws will also take great reassurance that the court is signing off on what they've done.
Right now, Shannon, Justice Sotomayor is reading the decision.
Want to really see something that said, take a look at what happened.
Hey. Why this beat so cold?
We will make America proud again. And you try to. We will make America wealthy again. And yes, together, we will make America great again. Hey, celebration time, come on, hey, common sense, come on, y'all, move them shoulders. Y'all ain't moved them shoulders in about 10, 20 years. Move them shoulders, Patriots. Move them shoulders. Some of y'all ain't got up and did your New Year's resolution. You said you was gonna get up and walk around and lose some weight and drop some pounds and try to get back out and get active. Move them shoulders now. Some of y'all ain't did nothing you said on your New Year's resolution. Because we just keep winning, y'all. Supreme Court just hit us with a big one. Everybody had their eyes on this one right here. Oh, yeah, common sense is back. And oh, sweet America. God bless them beautiful patriots around the world. I hope everybody that is tuned in right now that you got a smile on your face, that everything's going well, that you are blessed, well, and healthy. It's one love to the human race. Don't care where you come from, what you look like, what your skin color is. Don't care. We are loved and praised and celebrated all around the world on this channel. And it's one love to the human race, man. You know, we are rooting for America. We're rooting for common sense, for the America First agenda. You know, we are rooting for things like this. Yes, indeed. You know, I love y'all, man. And we're going to continue to spread that love. We're going to continue to call it out. We're going to continue to bring the best updates, the breaking news. Come on here and have fun, spread love, laugh, have a good time. That's it. And here we are. They said this is now illegal. Let's play this video right here. But before we play it, if you're new here, hit that subscribe button. Join the family. We are almost at 500,000 beautiful patriots around the world, man. We are global. I tell you, it is a complete blessing, and I wouldn't be here without you guys. I love you guys. We are family. We are not, nobody's a subscriber, a follower, a fan, none of that crap. We are family on this channel. And this is what we're rooting for. It says this is now illegal. Let's go and play this video right here.
Dr. Olson had a decision.
You are in the perfect place to start on blockers.
And she promises to begin giving her estrogen, female hormones, in 2 years.
Around 13. That's what I think. Yes, you're not going to develop breast buds on the blockers, but you're not going to wait until 16 to start. You know that, okay?
Josie received the blockers as an implant in her arm.
It's okay if you cry.
So with all the bravery she could muster,
you're going to feel a little bit of a...
Josie held on tight as another chapter opened in this young girl's life.
Closing up the skin.
A lot of times it strikes me that had this happened just 20 years ago,
Thank you.
I wouldn't have been able to give her blockers, and she would have had to go through male puberty. That terrifies me.
It's all done. Do you want a hug?
I don't know that she would have survived male puberty.
Bam! Shut it down. We did it. Boom! Huge victory. Fatal blow to the child mutilation industry. We won. Now upholds a ban in Tennessee against gender transition procedures for minors. Again, y'all, common sense is back. Today we celebrate, man. But the ban on transition surgeries, cross-sex hormones, puberty blockers for minors, and a 6-3 decision. This is a massive win, you know. What do y'all think of this? Let me know, man. Y'all give me a beautiful comment down below, you guys. You know? This is a huge win for children. All states just received the green light to get on board. Let's go and crack it, get it down, love. Get it, get it down, get it, get it. Y'all know I gotta come on here act a fool. Y'all know I'm gonna come on here act a fool. Y'all know I'm gonna keep it real with y'all though. Yeah. Cause this is what we advocate for. This is what we advocate for. You know what I'm saying? Yes, indeed, man. Massive win today. It just been wins and wins and wins and wins and wins. Told y'all we gonna win.
Moments ago, breaking at the Supreme Court, the justices there have issued a decision on Tennessee's ban on sex reassignment medical care for minors. The Supreme Court upholding the Tennessee law that bans certain types of gender-affirming care. Let's bring in Shannon Bream on this. Shannon, it's the first time really that the High Court is considering this type of care or restrictions on this type of care for children in America.
Yeah, and this has been one of the most watched cases of the entire term because there are many other states that also have some kind of limit or ban on trans treatment for minor children. So this has gotten a ton of attention, and essentially the court's ruling 6-3. There are concurrences and breaks here and there, but the majority opinion says this. They says this case carries with it the weight of fierce scientific and policy debates about the safety, efficacy, and propriety of medical treatments in the evolving field. They say there are a lot of different studies out there. They came up during arguments, some of them saying other countries have limited or backed off these treatments for minors, but they say that's not our place, our decision to make, but essentially says our role is not to judge the wisdom, fairness, or logic of the law, but just to ensure that it does not violate the equal protection guarantee of the 14th Amendment. They said this law survives that scrutiny. So essentially concluding that it does, we leave questions of policy to the people, their elected representatives, and the democratic process, essentially saying Tennessee has passed this law. We're not going to step in. We think that it passes the constitutional muster of the 14th Amendment. So Tennessee can continue under this law to ban specific treatments that are trans-related for minors. And the other states out there, 20 plus of them who have these laws, will also take great reassurance that the court is signing off on what they've done.
Right now, Shannon, Justice Sotomayor is reading the dissent. And part of what she wrote is that this court now authorizes untold harm to transgender children and the parents and families who love them, end quote. How big of a setback is this for the transgender movement?
Well, it is in these states where there's a dividing line in this country about states who think that this is good policy for minors to have these treatments available, and others like Tennessee who think it doesn't. And Tennessee had argued that they had a state interest, a compelling government interest in making sure that these treatments did not proceed for young people. But it is one of those things that feels like it's making the country more red and more blue in concentrated ways, because there will be people who may decide where they live based on these laws and these decisions. She does talk about this in her dissent. She says the court's willingness here to strike down this law and get into the health care bans does damage. She says irrevocable damage to the Equal Protection Clause, and invites legislatures to engage in discrimination by hiding blatant sex classifications in plain sight. Again, as you said, she said, without second thought, you're increasing untold harm to transgender children, their parents, and their families. She says there's no constitutional justification for this, so I dissent. So a split there, a big decision. We didn't think we might get it until next week. There are a few more percolating out there, but this is one we've been watching.
Shannon, we know that this decision wrapped in consideration for puberty blockers and hormone therapy. What about surgery, the other contentious issue?
Well, that wasn't a part of this case, essentially, which was, you know, a little bit of a mystery to folks about why that part of this was not challenged. But there are different parts to this law. So for right now, what it's saying is none of the puberty blockers can be done. None of those hormonal things can be offered to kids. Maybe there's another legal fight to come over the surgery aspect of this. But Tennessee has been kind of one of the forerunners and leaders in this. And there have been cases, as you guys know, because we've covered them, about people going inside these hospitals and whistleblowers and people saying there are things going on here that are in violation potentially of the law. So this now gives Tennessee the full-throated support of the Supreme Court to say, your state has decided to do this. It passes constitutional muster. Now, as a state, you can enforce it.
Shannon, this court, well, back in the day, they would wrap things up in about a week's time, but they could go for another 2 weeks because July 2nd is a Wednesday. So they've gone past that, the June 30th deadline that we've seen in recent years. So that's possible. But you think about the other cases, and there's a big one on birthright citizenship.
Right.
Do we consider that to be the highest priority case before them now? And could that come last?
I would say yes on that, because it gets to the underlying issue of those nationwide injunctions, which have marked this second Trump presidency. Can a single federal judge, some 600-700 of them around the country, can they shut something down nationwide? So it came to the court in that vehicle.
People spoke loud and clear. Put them judges on the plane, send them to El Salvador, Ukraine. People spoke loud and clear. People spoke loud and clear for common sense. Majority of America, a mandate. Landslide. Hell with a judge. Hell with somebody with a robe. Think y'all outranked the president? People spoke loud and clear. What we had an election for. God dog it. Y'all about to get on board? Get on board.
Birthright citizenship case, but it's much broader because it will tell us whether this court thinks a single judge can shut down policies nationwide. I think it's the thorniest, trickiest. It was a difficult argument for the justices. They added it as an emergency hearing in May, which they never hear cases in May. So I would not be surprised if that's the last thing we get from the court, just because it is going to be so contentious. They went overtime last year into July, so I wouldn't be surprised with all the emergency petitions they have pending, in addition to their regular work, that we may go into July this year.
Jillian.
All right, Shannon, thanks for jumping on that with us.
You got it.
Shannon, as we wait, just hang with us one moment here. We can go through the blog. There's a readout that's happening between the justices, and I don't know, but what is your sense about this ruling when it comes to the measure of emotion the justices looked at this? Is it a little more packed with emotional heat, do you read?
It was very heated during the arguments. It was extended time. There was a lot of back and forth between the justices themselves. Sometimes you get the feeling that the advocates who are there arguing in front of them are sort of secondary to the arguments they're having with each other on the bench. And this was one of those cases. I mean, it definitely is something that stirs up a lot of passions on both sides. It's a huge cultural issue. And justices don't always read their dissents from the bench like we hear Justice Sotomayor is doing now. But they do it when they're very very fired up, and they really want to make a statement about exactly what they're objecting to. So it's not uncommon. It doesn't happen with every case, though, and it generally signals that there is some real heat there. Now, remember, in recent weeks, we've given you a ton of unanimous decisions, and people have been like, oh my goodness, look at the court and all the ways it's kumbaya. Well, the tough ones were coming. We knew this was coming, so the unanimity will only last so long.
One more here, and just help our viewers understand this. Amy Coney Barrett is saying that she knows the court does not resolve whether or not transgender status constitutes a suspect class. And then she says, I write separately to explain why, in my view, it does not. So that gives me the indication that this story is not over, or further explanation is required.
Oh, Amy.
Or it's forthcoming.
At least with respect to this Tennessee law, the case is closed, but it does kind of signal where they may be going in the future. There are certainly other cases on this topic that are going to wind up before the court. They get thousands of appeals every year. She does have a concurrence here. It's we're clocking it at 118 pages, so I haven't read everything just yet, but this opinion. But she does signal about some of the future conversations that they're probably going to have here, because remember, there have been big cases. Justice Gorsuch in recent years made a lot of news on a case that was about what sex means in the law when it says you're protected on the basis of sex. Does that mean simply a biological gender? Does it mean being part of the LGBTQ class? Does it protect trans, sexual orientation, those kinds of things? So there are really weighty questions the court has not fully answered in every potential context, and this is certainly one of those cultural moments and issues that she's signaling we're going to have to get more deeply into this.
Okay, just put a fine point on this. This affects Tennessee. Does it cover the other 25 states, yes or no?
It will, because the Supreme Court has said if the law is modeled basically in the same framework as Tennessee, those states should feel that they do have now the stamp of approval of the Supreme Court. Now, if these laws are significantly different, they could maybe another challenge could be provoked. But for the most part, if it's within the confines of what we saw within this Tennessee law, then most of those states will have comfort that this is a nationwide decision that covers a law as long as it's pretty close to Tennessee's.
Really good work, Shannon. Thanks. Thanks for jumping on.
Thanks, guys.
Appreciate that. Shannon Breed, there she is.